So good afternoon. My name is Craig Groh. I'm with Typar Building Products. I'm a sales representative covering the Midwest. So I'm here really for you guys, a bunch of project managers for Matty Molly Homes. And we're going to go over some of the best practices as far as our installation for our products, from our building wrap all the way to our tape flashing, seams, and some accessories that we offer. So we believe that we have the best weather resistant barrier in the market, and we'll get into some of those key features and benefits. So first, why are we using a weather resistant barrier? Why are we using a house wrap? It really serves two purposes. Number one, it's to keep bulk water from entering through, getting and penetrating into your OSB. And the other thing that's a little bit more important, but not necessarily discussed enough, is solar driven moisture. Okay, we want to protect the inside of the wall or the wall cavity. So how are we going to do that? When we talk about the weather resistant barrier, one of the key things is the breathability, right? And how we measure that is in permeability. So you may have heard the shortened term PERMS before. So what is a permeability? Essentially, it's measured in moisture vapor transmittance, all right? And that's essentially the water that wants to come from the exterior and go to the interior. Now there's a fine line, right? We don't want too much permeability. We don't want too moisture to come in and out, but yet at the same time, we don't want a very tight wrap. We don't want something that doesn't allow literally anything to escape in the form of moisture from the interior to the exterior. So the ideal perm rating is between around 10 and 20. The Typar Universal House Wrap, which is our residential house wrap, falls in at 11.7. So today, for our house, we're going to be using our Universal Typar House Wrap. It's a spun bonded polypropylene with a microporous coating. For this job, residential, might be a couple months before we put the cladding on, so we don't have to worry about UV exposure. But it's really important to know some of the details about the universal wrap that you're going to be using. Number one, it's strong. Okay. So we have a bunch of fibers that are essentially floated down and adhered to the weather resistant barrier. What that does is makes it very, very strong. So there's a certain test that we use. It's what we call a trapezoidal tear test. Really strong. It's about 30 pounds before this gets ripped. The other thing that's important to note is the exposure time. So this universal house wrap, the universal Typar wrap, can be exposed for up to 6 months before degradation starts. So again, for a small job like this, where the cladding is going to be going on in a couple of months, we don't have to worry about that. However, say you have a client that it's going to be a 10,000 square foot home. It might be 9, 10, 11 months of exposure before we put that cladding on. Typar has what we call our Metro wrap. Now, technically, it's a commercial wrap, but it can be used in a residential manner. So, some of the things that are different, still has the Typar warranty, still has the microporous coating, still has the spun bonded material with the fiber on the back side. The two things that are different, really strong. So it's roughly 60 pounds on this trapezoidal tear test before it rips. The other thing is the exposure time. So this can be UV exposed for up to 12 months. So you get a really nice peace of mind. Either way, you're getting an outstanding product. So earlier we talked about that coating, that microporous coating that we put on top of the house wrap. What that is, it's a really important feature. And what it does is it protects from surfactants. Now, surfactant, it's kind of everywhere. So if you were to do a cement siding, if you were to do stucco, if you were to do a cedar lap, all right, the oils from the cedar, tannins, the detergents that are used within stuccos are surfactants. And essentially what that does is it eats through a weather resistant barrier. So it's really, really important that we have that microporous coating to protect from those surfactants from breaking down the weather resistant barrier, exposing your OSB and water penetrating through, which could possibly lead to mold. So we talked about the weather resistant barrier, the Typar universal house wrap, and the Metro wrap. All right, now we're going to be talking about the tape flashings and the seam tape that we offer to make a complete Typar system. So we offer three types of tape flashings. We have a butyl tape flashing, we have an all temperature tape flashing, what we refer to as AT flashing. It sticks from 160 degrees all the way to 0 degrees. So we get ranges of weather, right? It was 10 below here in Kansas City a couple of weeks ago. I'm outside and it's 70 degrees. We don't have to worry about it not sticking to the OSB. If you get a little bit of dew on there, if you get some dirt or debris, it'll still stick. Really, really nice. One of the other things that we offer is a flexible flashing. So the flexible flashing is for window installation. We put that at the sill. So for the butyl and the AT flashing, it's offered 4, 6, 9, 12 inches by 75 feet. For the flexible flashing, 6 inches, 9 inches, again, by 75 feet. Comes in a roll, looks like this. The other thing that we offer is our seam tape. So our seam tape is going to basically, when we have our 2 layers or 3 layers, depending upon how tall the house is, this seam tape is going to make it a complete weather resistant barrier. This one happens to be a 3 inch. We also offer an 1 7/8 inches. It's really nice, very easy to use. You don't need box cutter. You don't need a knife. As you can see here, it is perforated on both sides. Very easy to rip off. So Typar has a couple of other accessories to help make a full building envelope. So we're seeing more and more protrusions from walls, whether it be HVAC, any kind of PVC piping, etc. So one way to shore that up is using a Typar flashing panel. So the panels all are the same size. We have a nice neoprene flexible portion right here that can fit through, that protrusion can fit through. The diameter here is in multiple different sizes. The other thing that we offer is the Typar paddle. And this is really towards the seam tape and for window install, scraping on that tape flashing to get a really tight adherence to the weather resistant barrier. So I talked about our universal wrap. I talked about our Metro wrap. I talked about our tapes, our flashings, and our accessories to really shore up your entire building envelope. One of the things that I left out, not on purpose, but this is gaining a lot more popularity. So this is what we call Typar drainable wrap. So this is getting a little bit more popular in terms of the sidings that are being used. So more and more people are going to cement sidings like a James Hardy board, etc. A lot of these cement fiberboard cladding products are requiring a drainage wrap. And really what this is to promote a positive drainage plane for any water that might get back through. We want it to drain right down. So this is our universal wrap with a coating on top. And what this does is promotes drainability. So we have 95% positive water drainage with this wrap. Just wanted to share that one tidbit of information with you. Now that I've gone over everything, the only thing that I'll end with before we start the actual install is our system warranty. So anybody has a warranty on a specific product. all right? But a system warranty is really what separates Typar from a lot of the other weather resistant barrier manufacturers. Okay. So we offer a lifetime system warranty when all Typar products are used, and proper installation per the Typar installation guidelines are used. What that does, it's really two things, right? It gives us a great peace of mind, not only for you as a project manager, as your builder, but to your homeowner. If anything should happen, know that you have the Typar protection guarantee. So now we're going to get into the actual installation. So we are going to start from the bottom, going all the way up to the top. We're going to leave ourselves approximately 1 inch from the sill. If you happen to be starting from the corner, we're going to give ourselves, at a minimum, 12 inches from the corner. So you can see we've got this started. We've got this pulled nice and tight. You can see here that we are using cap nails. Cap nails are really, really important. It follows our installation guidelines. If you're not going to use a cap nail, please make sure and use a cap staple. All right. You can see that we have orange markings both horizontally and vertically every 8 inches. So it's really important to know, for our installation guidelines, we're installing these cap nails, cap staples every 32 inches on center, both horizontally and vertically. So you can see I have a couple here. So I'm going to come down 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go right on our orange. Using our cap nail, again, making sure we're nice and tight. We can see that Typar logo really, really good. We're going to bring this down here. Again, 32 inches. I'm going to come down here using my cap nail. Still getting it nice and tight. So you can see my window opening here. Now, this might not be 32 inches from here to here. However, I still want to keep our house wrap tight up against the structure. However, with this particular opening, I don't want to impede the nailing fin when the window is going to be installed. Hence, I just brought this out just a little bit further, but it's not following that 32-inch guideline. But I'm okay with that in that one specific opening. So we're finishing up our last layer. We're all the way up at the roof line. We've pre-cut our universal wrap. And really what we want to do is we want to ensure that we're coming down and we're overlapping in a weatherboard fashion, 6 inches overlap. So we're going to come here and we'll go ahead and get that installed. So we're finishing up our last cap nail. So again, staying nice and tight. We have a 6-inch overlap. You can still see that we're saying 32 inches on center. And we're ready to go. Looks pretty good. Again, we don't want to see a lot of airflow through that. So now, to finish this off, we're going to go ahead and do our Typar seam tape. So this comes in 3 inches, 1 7/8. It's self-perforated, so it makes for a really easy cut. So I'm going to wrap starting at the corner. Don't need to go super fast. Getting it started. Again, we want to see some nice, good adhesion. I'm going along with my hand. nice and tight. Coming all the way across. Stop it right there. Important to note, any kind of bubbles that we see, we want to go ahead and smooth that out with our hand. This is where Typar flashing panel comes in handy. It applies just enough force to make sure we have a nice tight adhesion. I stopped here on purpose. If you perhaps run out of tape or you're at a seam, what we want to make sure of is that we overlap minimum of 2 inches. So I'm going to come over on our existing seam tape, overlapping 2 inches, still maintaining nice and tight. Easy tear tape. Finishing at the corner, using my hand. There's a little wrinkle there. I'm going to take my paddle, just make sure we smooth that out, make sure no water gets trapped. And now we have a fully tight air and water barrier. So now we've come to our window opening. So essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to cut this. We're going to use a modify eye method. And all I'm doing right now is feeling for my opening. I'm going to take my utility knife at the top, going over to the edge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down about 90% of the way. Knowing that I have 2 layers that I need to go through, and I'm going to come down, again, a modified eye to the corners. Get my knife, feeling for my corners, holding my wrap. Okay. So now what I can do here with the side is I can tack that in, both sides. Same with the sill. For the top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a couple inches above, 45 degrees. And in order to hold this, I'm going to flap that up. Just use a little bit of seam tape to hold that up. And now my opening is ready for my window. So here we have our window opening prepped and ready to go. We've tucked the sides in nice and tight. We tuck the sill over. We have our 45 with our flap. So this is ready for a window install. Typically what we would do is per window manufacturer installation, we're going to install. And then what we're going to do is tape flashing down the sides. We want to extend around 6 inches past. Set your window. You're going to take your tape flashing across the head using your paddle or roller to get that nice and tight. At that point, we would take our tape off. We're going to flip this down, and then again, you could either take our seam tape or you could take our tape flashing and tape these down as such. So moving on to our other opening. So this is our through wall protrusion. So we talked about a newer product, the Typar flashing panel. All right. So again, the install on this is pretty easy. Essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to marry up where the protrusion is with the neoprene opening. Now, the important thing to note with this is what we're going to do is this gets nice and tight over. But the important thing is we want a positive water plane. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a slit and then bring this flashing panel up behind the weather resistant barrier and then over the wall protrusion. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Okay. So I'm guessing maybe an inch or so above the black part. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to come down. I'm going to take my utility knife, use this as my template. There we go. Take the time, put my knife away. Then essentially what I'm going to do, take the flashing panel. I'm going to slide it up under our Typar house wrap. And then as you can see, sliding it over the protrusion, nice and tight. And now we're ready to flash this. Okay, so we have two different types of tape, seam tape and our AT flashing. This happens to be our 4-inch AT flashing. Don't want to use seam tape. The seam tape, as strong as it is for the seams, quite honestly, it's not going to be strong enough to hold the flashing panel, and we want just a little bit more oomph, and that's why we're going to choose the 4-inch AT flashing. I've gone ahead and pre-cut the AT flashing. Okay, again, AT stands for all temperature. It's nice. You can see two-sided. So I'm going to go ahead and start this. Nice and sticky. Going down the sides. As you can see, this is really, really sticky stuff. Okay. So I'm going to come down the sides. Use my hand to get nice adhesion. I'm going to come back with my Typar paddle. Really getting corners, sides, and up top. As you can see, that looks pretty sharp. So put my AT flashing down the sides. Now I'm just finishing up at the head. I'm pulling this along as I go. Make sure we're nice and tight. You can see I've extended a couple inches past. Again, really what we want to do is promote a positive drainage plane in weatherboard fashion. Again, with my paddle, make sure I have nice, good adhesion with the Typar AT flashing to the Typar universal wrap. Okay, so you can see right here, I'm taking you through a full install of the Typar universal house wrap. Starting at the bottom, come up to the top. We want to do it in a weatherboard fashion, 6-inch overlap. We have our cap nails or cap staples, 32 inches on center, both horizontally and vertically. We prepare our window door opening as such. We have our wall through protrusion with our HVAC, PVC piping, etc. And then we're finishing everything up with the Typar seam tape for a full air and water barrier. So I've been Craig Grow with Typar. I greatly appreciate your time. And if you need me for any field installs, I'm here to help. So here we are on a job site with Matty Molly Homes. Matty Molly Homes has been using Typar for a couple of years now. They've been really satisfied with the product itself. I'm coming to do just a quick job site visit, take a look, see if there's anything that I can point out to them that would further help them with the Typar product. Right off the bat, I can see we do have a little bit of a tear. Nothing too major, but this is a really easy fix. So for Troy, for Steven, what I'm gonna do for them is basically walk through how we would take care of a rip or a tear on the product. So as you can see right here, there are some framing members that are up against the house. This slight tear goes across the face of this elevation of the house. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take care of this small corner right here, talk to the framing crew, let them know how to fix that. That way, when this is out of the way, they can go ahead and continue wrapping that seam tape on that tear. Really important, what we want to convey is that even though I'm gonna start and stop, we want to convey that a 2-inch overlap on the seam tape is proper for when starting and stopping. So if we can see right here, this is our Typar brand seam tape. Comes in 2 different sizes. This one happens to be a 3-inch. Isn't something that a lot of people use. I do like it in terms of it covers more area of the seam of the weather resistant barrier. It also comes in a standard of 1 7/8 inches. With this particular seam tape, which makes ours really nice, is it's perforated on both sides. What that means is if I open it, cuts really easy. So our seam tape in 3-inch and 1 7/8 inches comes in rolls of 165 feet. So we're gonna go ahead and take care of this slight tear in the Typar house wrap. What we want to make sure is that's nice and tight. We're rubbing that on there, making sure that we have good adhesion. The other thing that's important is we want to make sure that we don't have any wrinkles in it. That way we don't want any water to possibly sit in behind the tape. I'm going to give that one more smooth down. Again, I'm going to reiterate to the framing crew when they come back to take care of this rip, we're going to do a minimum 2-inch overlap on the seam tape, and they can continue that on. So we're still walking around this house, taking a look how the house wrap was installed, maybe give a little bit of coaching along the way. So really, one of the most important things that I look for happens to be the use of cap nails or cap staples. As I mentioned earlier, it is per our installation guidelines that you use a capped nail or a capped staple. As you can see up here, they've done a fantastic job. Really good. If you remember from earlier on when we were talking about how to install the cap nails or cap staples, it is 32 inches on center, both horizontally and vertically.
They've done just a little bit too much here. Not a big deal. The spacing is still pretty nice. The most important thing is that they are using those cap nails or cap staples. I'll address that with the framer and the builder a little bit later. So the window openings are obviously already cut out. In this instance right here, you can see that they did go ahead, wrap over the window opening, and they're preparing it in this opening right here. For more information, please visit our website at typar.com. There are a number of downloads that you can choose from, including our Typar installation instructions.